term of office. The president holds office for a term of 5 years. That means how long is the tenure of a president? He is eligible for re-election for 1, 2 or more terms, but a tradition has developed in our country during the past 50 years or so that no president except Dr. Rajendra Prasad, the first president, held the office for more than one term. Now what happened is, only Dr. Rajendra Prasad, that is the first president of India, he was the only person who extended his term. Whereas now what we've seen over 50 years, only one term, and that is a term of 5 years, and then re-elections take place and a new president is elected. Vacancy. The president may resign from his office before the expiry of his term. For this purpose, he has to send his written resignation to the vice president, who will also cause it to be communicated to the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. That means there is only a vacancy when the president resigns. And how does he resign? He writes a letter and he sends it to the vice president. That letter is taken by the vice president to the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, and then they assess it and then they decide whether his resignation is accepted or not, and if there is a vacancy that exists now. Impeachment. Impeachment means when somebody is not efficient enough and you don't like the way they function, so you want to remove them from that post. The parliament can remove the president through impeachment for violation of the constitution, treason or bribery. That means either the person lies about something or they're caught taking bribes. That is the only way you can remove someone from their post. Emoluments. Now, emoluments are basically the certain facilities or certain privileges that the president gets when he is the president. The president is entitled to the following emoluments. Number 1, a salary of 5 lakhs per month. A well-furnished official residence, that is the Rashtrapati Bhavan, free of rental charges. Number 3, his salary is changed on the Consolidated Fund of India, so it is not subject of parliamentary vote. Now here, there are 3 kinds of privileges that he gets. 1, his salary is fixed, 5 lakhs every month he gets. 2nd, he lives in the Rashtrapati Bhavan and he's not paying any rent for that. 3rd, his salary, when he gets his salary, it is not the present conditions that decide his salary or a ruling party that decides his salary. It is the Consolidated Fund of India. Whatever money the country gets as a whole, that determines how much money needs to be given to the president of our country. Presidential elections. Now, how are these elections held? How do we choose the president? The president is elected indirectly. Ordinary citizens play no part in his election. Like in the prime minister, what happens is people vote. The person with the highest votes, or rather the party with the highest votes, they decide who's going to be the head, right? Here what happens, it's a little different. We'll read and we'll understand. As his authority extends over the center and the states, he is elected by the electoral college. We studied in the previous chapter what is an electoral college. An electoral college is a joint body of elected members of the parliament and MLAs which elect the president. That means they are MLAs and MPs. They are the people who decide who's the president of our country. It is not the people. It is the elected people who first we elect. Those elected people further on go to the next level by deciding who the president is. The joint body of elected MPs and MLAs which elect the president is known as the Electoral College. It is a temporary body which is dissolved immediately after the election of the president is over. That means once the president is over, that Electoral College that is created, that is dissolved, because the Electoral College is basically made to elect the president. Once the president is elected, the Electoral College also dissolves. Powers of the president. Now, what are powers does the president have? President powers can be studied on the 5 broad categories: executive, legislature, judiciary, emergency and discretionary. So there are 5 different powers. Now when you are asked questions, please make sure if it's the executive powers, you have subheadings. You should know the headings. Explaining it in your own words is your way of making it simple, so that when we check or when we read your answers, we know that you have understood what you have learned and you are delivering it. We do not expect you to write extremely long answers. We only want the key points to be well covered. And how can you cover them? When you're writing the subheadings, then and explaining it in 1 or 2 lines, that's when we know that you know the topic well, whatever has been asked. If you're asked the judiciary powers, if you're asked about the powers in general, you mention the 5 powers. If you're asked them in detail, then you mention the headings and the subheadings. If required, you will be asked to explain them in detail. Only then will you add on 1 or 2 lines to explain the point more clearly. Executive powers. Executive powers. The Constitution lays down that the executive powers of the Union shall be vested in the President. The executive powers include the following. Number 1, the administrative head. Number 2, appoints and dismisses the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. Number 3, appoints and dismisses high officials. Number 4, power of administer union territories. Number 5, military powers. Number 6, diplomatic powers. Now, these are the broad headings of the kind of powers that the president has under executive powers. Now, I'll be reading and I'll be explaining, so please listen very carefully. The first executive power was the administrative power. He is the head of the state. The administration of the country runs in his name. All orders are issued in his name. All officials are his subordinates. He is the head of the union administration. So if you're asked who's the head of the country, it is the president. Appoints and dismisses the prime minister and the council of ministers. Now that's a big power. He appoints the prime minister on the advice, and he appoints the other ministers in the council of ministers. He administers the oath of office to them. The Prime Minister and the ministers submit their resignation to them if required. That means when the Prime Minister of India is being elected, it is the President who plays the most important role on the Prime Minister's election. And the Council of Ministers also, even when they are dismissed or even when their tenure is ended, it is the President who is most important during these rulings. Appoints and dismisses high officials. Now, what else does the president do? He appoints and he dismisses high officials. That means people who are of certain high position or certain, positions in the government. They are appointed or they are dismissed by the President of India. The President appoints and removes dignitaries like the Attorney General of India, the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, the judges of the Supreme Court and High Courts, the state governors, ambassadors, and high commissioners. He also appoints chairmen and members of the Union Public Service Commission, Finance Commission, and the Election Commissioners of India. Now, these are all subheadings. Who all does he appoint and who all does he have the power to dismiss? I know sometimes, when I'm reading at one go, my breath tends to, hold back. It's a little difficult, so please excuse me when I get choked because I'm reading continuously and explaining. I can get a little breathless. Point number 4, power to administer union territories. Now, what are the union territories? You have states and you have union territories. The president has the power to administer. That means to watch over, to control, or to make sure that the ruling of the union territories are done in a certain way. Every union territory in India is under the president and it is administered by him. He exercises this power through an administrator appointed by him. So when how does a union territory be controlled, or how's it administered? It is administered by the president, and the president keeps somebody or appoints somebody to run it. And military powers. What all powers does the president have when it comes to the military powers? The president is the supreme commander of the armed forces of India. In his capacity, he appoints the chiefs of the staff of the army, the navy, and the air force, and other defense services. As the supreme commander of the armed forces, he also has the power to declare war or to conclude peace with any country. This is very important. It's not the prime minister who decides whether there should be war, whether there shouldn't. It is the president. It is his power when he decides whether it's the army, the